So, guys, I'm pretty sure that when we mentioned the whole thing about us being back after Thanksgiving with a new revamped show, I'm pretty sure we didn't say specifically which Thanksgiving, so technically, I think we're still okay.
We're good.
We did it. Happy Thanksgiving, everyone.
Right?
You don't get to say we did it. You weren't here. You were in a different show. You weren't part
Yeah,
of this one.
technically, you're just like the guest that actually like evolved. You are no longer the young Bulbasaur that we knew you as.
Oh, my favorite.
I knew I was guessing right there.
Oh yeah, I love that stupid little dude. I don't know why.
Of 150 Pokemon, you chose Bulbasaur.
Hey, there's like 1,000 now, but yes, I still choose Bulbasaur.
Just 1,000? It feels like way more than that now.
There's only 151. That I will live and die on that hill.
That is, I do prefer it that way too. I really, really, really do.
I miss the old days where, I could actually, like, memorize at least half of them.
I used to know all 151.
Yeah, I knew every single one. I couldn't do it now, but I definitely used to be able to do that.
I had a Pokemon calendar, thing, and it was right by my bed, and I would just read it all the time and stuff. Yeah.
I was very frustrated. I did a Sporkle quiz on that recently, and I didn't get as many in the time limit that I thought I would, and there were quite a few that I'm like, how did I forget you? Oh my god, what's wrong with my brain? But then you realize, wait, you're on the clock and you have 151 names to remember. It's so easy to blend. You have like a good chunk of like 50 already, and then your brain goes, okay, but let's keep repeating them over and over.
Still, Bulbasaur, that's like, you might as well pick like Kakuna, like the one, like, not even that one. What's the lame one? What's the lame one that turns into the moth?
The Venomoth or whatever?
Oh, Venomoth?
Not the cool. No, yeah, the one that's just like the pod.
Oh, like Metapod.
Oh, Metapod before Butterfree or whatever.
You're choosing the lame ones, buddy. And what's your Pokemon? What's your
you
go-to?
don't understand how cool Bulbasaur is because I don't have a good comeback. I got nothing.
I love how we went from, okay, sorry that we've been gone for 8 weeks to fuck Bulbasaur. So off to a great start.
It's not my fault that Chris comes in here and drops a bomb saying that Bulbasaur is his favorite Pokemon. Like, Jesus, like, first impressions much?
Coming in hot on the new revamped PixelPlay Podcast. So, I guess we might as well just come out and say it. Yeah, this is the revamped show that we probably promised you within, like, I don't know, a week or two after we, stopped doing shows for a bit. But along with, I mean, we're not going to get too deep into it, but along with, like, illnesses and a bunch of, like, issues, personal stuff that we've all been dealing with, it just kind of worked out this way that we had enough of a break that it just happened to fall off of the other Thanksgiving. So I guess in some weird, like, monkey's paw thing, it technically still worked out just fine.
The important thing is we're all okay.
The important thing is we're all okay, but I'm about to do a heel turn. I'm about to go bad. I'm turning into a bad guy here because I broke something that I said I would never do on this show, and I now have done it. That's how I'm starting this.
What'd you do? Do you also like Bulbasaur?
Oh, he caved!
Now, I'm only going to say that this is basically, I got it because I really wanted a Ring Fit, and it's the only way that I'm going to be able to work from home and exercise at the same time because I hate going to the gym. And I already know that my girlfriend is going to easily create a much bigger library because she's got a bunch of games she wants to get. I'm probably not going to spend much more money on that Switch, but you know what? For just the Ring Fit and it's kicking my ass, it might still be worth it in the long run. But I'm also a VR headset owner, and so is Chris, thanks to me. So, we've been working on that stuff too. We all now have, I think all of us now own the original PSVRs.
Yeah.
It is fantastic. I did not expect that at all. Holy crap. Astro's Robot Rescue or whatever, I put that on. I was like, well, this is my new life. This is where I belong. The real world can suck it.
Gotta do Beat Saber. Beat Saber is the best one.
I'm still waiting for that, but it never seems to go on sale, so it might just have to be a day where I give up and throw the money in on it.
Drop the cash. It's totally worth it.
Well, I got a bunch of things to go through. I mean, Tetris Effect has been what I've kind of done a little bit of. I did recently get Blood and Truth, and what was the other one I picked up? I can't remember right now. There's I think Gran Turismo I also got.
Oh, Gran Turismo you did, yes.
Oh god. I got like at least 10 different things that I can take a stab at right now, so I've got plenty of things I can play with for the time being.
Job Simulator is a good one.
But it made perfect sense anyway. Like, as soon as we knew what the price of the VR2 was going to be, it was much more expensive than I was expecting. Granted, based on the hardware that it's offering and for what the price still is compared to, say, the Oculus, it makes sense. but it doesn't to me who can't afford that. So
Yeah, it doesn't make sense to a console gamer.
And it also doesn't make sense in a 2023 inflation year.
no.
Oh,
But then
yeah.
GameStop's like, hey, do you want the original one for $200? And I said, why, yes, I do.
I would
Sure.
love that.
And it came with
Would you
Iron Man
like your
VR,
friend
which I also
Adam
need to try.
to text
so.
you and tell you the price so that you also go get the PSVR?
Yeah,
yes,
I
would love
literally
that.
messaged Chris and a few people in another Discord and went, okay, guys, if you're interested in VR gaming, this is probably the only time you're going to have a crack at it because these might sell out really quick and go on the black market for more. So get on that.
Another one worth checking out. Actually, this one's a good one to recommend. It's Chris, you're gonna appreciate this one. It's called "I Expect You to Die." You're basically James Bond in escape rooms.
Yeah, I've played it with one of my friends. It's very fun.
So basically, like you're James Bond strapped to a table, lasers coming up your crotch, kind of thing, and you have to solve the puzzle to kind of escape from the. Basically, you're at that second half of the movie where James Bond's captured. You have to escape the death device, and yeah, you'll like that one.
It's a neat
Another
idea.
fun
It
one-
almost really is like a James Bond puzzle game. I like that.
It's 100%.
Yeah.
The other one worth checking out is if you want to play games with someone who doesn't have a VR headset in the room. There's one called "Keep Talking and Nobody Dies or Nobody Explodes," and essentially what it is you are think of like Lethal Weapon. One of you guys is locked in a room with a bomb. The other person has like the manual over there, and so the person with the headset sees the bomb. The person not doing it has a document with all sorts of solutions to the puzzle. And so the person with the bomb has to be like, okay, I see like 3 wires. And they're like, okay, well, what's the serial number on the bomb? Oh, it ends with a 3. Okay, cut the yellow wire, but only if like timer's at a 2. Like it's a lot of fun.
Oh,
It's a good
yeah.
it's a good couples game. In the sense that it'll challenge you and you guys will yell at each other eventually.
Yeah. I was gonna say this is the best and worst idea for my relationship.
It's the overcooked school of marriage. There you go.
Yes.
Collaborate until you yell and someone has to walk away.
Well,
so
aside
true.
from that, what's everybody else been up to? Positively, I guess, in the time that we've been gone.
So much gaming. I've been gaming so much lately, and I don't know what's different. It's just, I guess, some good releases like Pokemon. I mean, I don't want to say good release, but release.
That's
That's
an interesting lead. That's an interesting one to lead with.
Well, I mean, we're gonna talk about
just the
Pokemon
most
Scarlet
recent.
and Violet. We're obviously gonna get to God of War at some point too.
I was gonna say God of War, another one. Just so much gaming, so much.
What have
So
you been
worth it.
playing recently, Kaylan, or have you been able to with all the stuff going on?
Yeah, so the one plus side of being sick is you got a lot of time to just sit around and do nothing. So could have happened a little bit sooner or a little bit later when God of War did come out. But yeah, I've been playing God of War like crazy. Absolutely loving that. I tried Tunic. That was something I was kind of using to kind of fill the void. Talk about that in a bit. Not really much to say yet. I played it for a bit and then God of War came out and I don't want to play with you anymore. And now I'm just playing God of War. Haven't beaten it yet though. So when we get to the chat, it'll just be an impressions kind of thing on my side, but I'm pretty deep into it that I can at least give some thoughts. What about you, Adam?
Well, right now, like I said, God of War, I've finished. So I think both me and Chris are the only two here on the show that have. Granted, also
Look at the guys here with no kids able to finish video
Right?
games quickly.
It is 100. When I said I don't know how I did so much gaming, it is 100% the fact I have no children.
that's
That is how I pulled off
that
all
is
the
the
gaming.
true
You
cheat
guys
code
are
of
gonna-
life.
You guys are gonna be so pissed when you guys need a kidney and I have an extra one lying around.
Look, I've got a couple of nieces. I can mooch off of them. It's all good.
I can mooch off of them.
All right, so we got a couple of things to start with here. I think probably, and this is going to be probably the biggest thing we talked about when we were initially going to start. And ironically enough, a new trailer's dropped for it. So I feel like the Mario movie is probably the best way to start here because it was such a hot topic when the first trailer came out. Now that the second one's come out, I think it's also interesting that we're going to get a chance to talk about this trailer for the first time while actually having time to digest what the first one was and see if
Yeah.
anything's different. I will start off by saying, no, it didn't change anything. I still hate the first trailer.
Okay, let's move past the whole like first trailer aspect because like I don't think that was a good first impression. Let's just talk about the impressions in general. Like, I
Yeah.
mean, for me, like I still hate what's his face as Mario.
Chris Pratt?
Oh,
Chris Pratt.
Chris Pratt,
I
yeah.
still hate.
No.
You know what? Everyone else is kind of crushing it. Like, obviously, I don't think anyone really is going to be surprised. Jack Black is crushing it as Bowser. Yeah, he sounds awesome. But like Charlie Day as Luigi, I was
Yeah.
surprised. Like, I was like, Yeah, you know what? I don't know who else they could have done it, but like that is close enough that like it's certainly not the Luigi we have in Nintendo, but I could totally see that impression or that iteration of Luigi. Same with Toad. Like I could see that iteration of Toad. But I feel like the only one who's not doing anything is Chris Pratt.
Yeah, no, not at all. That's the only one that bothered me through the whole trailer. Everybody else, I'm on board. Like, obviously, Jack Black is just, it's perfect for that role as
Yeah, Jack
Bowser,
Black's
but
clearly the shining star right now.
yeah. But he's done, wait, has he done voice work? I don't know. He does voices,
Well, he's
though,
done
right?
he's done games,
so
like
much
he did
range.
Brutal Legend and stuff like that. So
Yeah.
it's not like he's
He did
out
Kung
of
Fu
it. But
Panda.
in terms of like doing non-Jack Blacky voices, I don't know. I'm trying to think.
Like he did Kung Fu Panda and he did like Brutal Legend. Like I mean, Jack Black has a certain, he's got a distinct voice. We also haven't seen or heard a lot of Jack Black in the last 5 years or so, other than just some silly YouTube stuff. But like he's not been doing a lot. So like I think that might be part of the reason why it's like it feels fresh and it's like, oh, that's different, is because we've kind of lack of a better way forgotten what Jack Black is like, whereas Chris Pratt is in every movie every 6 months.
Yeah, but I also
Yeah.
think that Jack's done a little bit more to this one because it definitely, honestly, when I hear it, there's sometimes, honestly, when I hear his Bowser, especially in the second trailer, I almost feel like he's like a Winnie the Pooh character at some points, like with some of like the inflections that he does. It's kind of interesting. Like I hear little bits of different things that I think he might be trying with this role, which obviously is awesome because it means he's actually caring. Unlike,
Yeah.
and look, I'm not going to say Chris Pratt isn't caring about the role that he's in. I'm sure he's really honored to be playing Mario of all characters, but I feel like there's still more that I could desire out of it. And on the flip side, like Anna Taylor-Joy doing Peach, I'm still rough with that one, but I think that's also because the voice is so different from the original. And I think that might actually be a good thing because let's be honest, the original Peach is mostly Mario! Like it's just damsel in distress voice. Whereas you're actually getting a Peach that's much more independent, that's much more, I guess, realistic, which is going to make it a lot more interesting to bounce off of.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and Michael
like, that was-
Keegan Key, I think that's how you say his name, as Toad.
Mhm.
Like, I think he's killing it.
Oh yeah.
I love that Toad voice. Like, I think it's
Oh
just
my god, don't
spot
touch
on.
that!
Yeah, he's just,
Oh wait, that's good.
it's yeah, it's like I think he's gonna be really funny. Like, it's gonna be a very funny character, but not Mario.
Yeah, like admittedly with the trailer, like a lot of what I see, I go, I don't know if this is necessarily going to appeal to me as much as it would a kid, which to me is fine. Doesn't make a difference to me. Like that's what this movie's designed for. Cool. And it might even be like Sonic where I go in thinking, maybe I won't enjoy this as much and walk out being like, damn, that was actually pretty fun. And I have that kind of similar feeling too.
This is the thing that I've kind of been like not shaking my head, but like rolling my eyes at Reddit is that like you've got 30-year-old men like us who are online being like, oh, the movie's only 80 minutes or like 90 minutes. And I'm like, this movie, they're not making it for you. Nintendo is not designing the Mario movie for you. It is for 7-8-year-olds. Like that's who the target audience is. And like, can we as adults get something out of it? Sure. Like I'm not here to like gatekeep and be like, kids movies are for kids, but like they're targeting it to that group. Could it appeal to us? Could we enjoy it? Absolutely. But we're not the target audience. And I feel like that's something that some people are on the internet are complaining. And it's like, it's not for us. This isn't our Mario movie. We have ours. It takes place in like like what the hell was it called? The New York City.
Oh
City?
God.
I'm trying not to remember.
We had our Mario movie.
Why isn't John Leguizamo Luigi in this one?
I mean, probably for the same
name.
reason that Charles Martinet is not Mario in this one.
Your first name, Mario. What's your middle last name? Mario.
That's the one thing though about the movie that I'm still concerned about. It's like Charles Martinet is going to be in there at some point.
Yeah,
because he's part of the cast, but it's like, what is he doing? And I feel like that moment might actually, it's either going to make us sad or angry. I don't know if it's going to be anything other than those two feelings, because we're all going to be sitting there being like, I understand you casting a bunch of other people in the roles, because a lot of them, especially like Bowser, they don't exactly have like massive speaking roles. They just make they just make sounds. So having Jack Black doing it isn't that big a deal. Having Anna Taylor-Joy doing a different take on Peach isn't that big a deal because Peach honestly hasn't really had a lot of dialogue to begin with. Mario, though, is a very distinctive sound. And it
Let's be
also
honest,
is like
he's not.
there
He's
are
not
still like
that
a lot of
fleshed out.
iconic lines. So to suddenly change it up into basically Star-Lord, Jurassic Park guy, and whatever other Chris Pratt roles there are seems a little bit weird.
Is does Mario have iconic lines? Wahoo! Here we go. Here we go. Like, get that
It's more than nothing.
granted, but at the same time, do you really want to hear that voice do a full dialogue for 80 minutes? Like, it's great when it's a one line or a throwaway here or there, but I don't want to listen to that voice.
No, but I
Like,
think they
it's
could have
great-
at least done us a favor and I don't know, like audio edited Chris Pratt's voice after he did all the dialogue to at least like turn the pitch up a tiny bit.
I wanted them to just lean into the full Brooklyn accent like they did with the Super Mario Super Show.
Yeah,
Well, okay, yeah, at
that's
least
what
if they
I
did
want.
that, I would have accepted the change.
Yeah, exactly. And I was watching that show when this movie got announced, and I'm like, man, this show is awesome.
It so is. Oh, that was such
Except
a
Toad.
good...
Toad had the worst voice in that show.
Oh yeah, I'm glad they didn't use that Toad, but also I'm kind of upset they didn't use the Toad from that show.
So for me, I was watching the trailer today, and like the one concern I have with this is that like it's a short movie, like it's 80 minutes or so. I'm worried that it's like overcrowded because like in the trailer we see like we have Bowser being Bowser. We have I'm assuming we're gonna have Peach do a training montage with Mario. He seems like it's gonna be that fish out of water. Then they fight Donkey Kong at some point. Then they go karting. Like, are they like? Do they hit the links and do a back nine kind of thing too at some point? Like, I feel like they're cramming a lot into a Mario
Yeah.
movie.
It could be a lot. It could. I hope it's not too much because like visually it looks stunning. Like the colors, everything like that looks amazing. But yeah, I can definitely see that where 1 minute they're like fighting Donkey Kong with Cranky Kong looking over him laughing, and then the next they're driving down Rainbow Road being chased by like a legion of Bowser's go-karts for some reason, and it's probably going to be a
that
very
Mad Max-
fast movie.
That Mad Max scene where like
Yeah,
all of
it's-
Bowser's cars.
It is purely it was a nice way to bring in Mario Kart in a way because it seems like he's just being chased. I mean, hopefully it's a good. It could be also just very forced. Who knows?
It's one of those things like just because we can have it, does that mean we should have it?
I'm still shocked
hope
that they put Peach's Wii motorcycle suit in this too. Like I'm like, whoa, okay, I was expecting dress the entire way, but all right.
I mean, Peach was also walking out towards like I think it's Bowser's ship in the sky or something. She's got a battle axe behind her. I was like, whoa, Peach is kind of Kratosing over here. This is what is this? I don't remember this from the games. Is this a Mario Party minigame? I don't know.
It just tosses in. It's like.
I wonder what other Mario game references. I hope Mario is missing at one point. and
I was
Luigi
about
has
to say,
find
like,
him.
please, we need a time machine.
No,
Mario's
you're
time
missing.
machine.
You're missing the moment where some character gets hurt and he's like, "Trust me, I'm a doctor." Puts on a jacket. And...
He's also
there's so much
got to
stuff.
paint over some graffiti or something.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
We talk about how random it was, like with Mario Paint, that you had the fly game where you had to swat flies.
Yeah, that was thrown in for sure, just because they were like, "We're charging $80 for this." I know.
It's like,
We
what else
gotta
can we
add
do?
something. There's literally this is Microsoft Paint, which comes with Windows. We gotta do something.
My sister and I spent way too much time swatting flies with that
Same.
game.
Absolutely the same. So I guess it worked.
I mean, for me, like I was talking with Jen, and we're gonna. I think this is gonna be the movie that I'm gonna bring my son for like his first movie theater experience. Do I expect it to be some amazing thing? No, I don't think it's gonna be of the same level of like the Lego movie or something like that. Like I'm kind of not that point, but like I think it'll be kind of like a Wreck-It Ralph kind of thing where it's like, okay, this is cool, I like it. Not the best video game movie I've ever seen, but also not the worst. It'll be fun, it'll be entertaining. So
I like that
It's
you
not
used
to-
the Lego movie, which is also voiced by Chris Pratt.
but like it works in that movie because you know what? Lego character never had a name, and it
Yeah,
totally
no.
fits for Chris Pratt as that like bumbling idiot kind of look. And for
Yeah.
me, I think the Lego movie, and not to get on a sidetrack, is like the definition and the pinnacle of like licensed family movie. Like
Oh, 100%.
it's so
100%.
like it fits for adults. Like I as an adult will sit and watch the Lego movie myself, but my son enjoys just sitting there and watching like the cool colors and stuff. And like I
Yeah.
feel like that's the pinnacle. And I don't think Mario's gonna hit it. It could still be fun, it could still be good, but I don't think it's gonna be, you know, revolutionary.
Yeah, I think
It will be the
that's
best. It'll be the best Mario movie we have so far.
not that there's much of a bar to clear at that point.
That's the joke, Adam.
That's oh yeah, Adam. I don't know how you didn't see that, man.
I still had to make the comment. I can't help it.
Just stop. It's dead, Adam. It's
Nope.
fine. Just leave it there.
Nope, no can do.
It's dead. It's dead, and its wallet has been stolen.
I refuse.
Oh, that's dead.
Absolutely refuse. Well, speaking of absolutely refuse, I guess this is the best way I can transition into Pokemon because it looks like the developers absolutely refused to make a game that was free of bugs in that one because Pokemon Scarlet and Violet seem to be quite the mess.
Technically, like yes. Oh my god. As someone who's played it and beaten it, oh my god, technical everything is bad. All of it. I couldn't believe it when I was playing it. Because I played a lot of Switch games, and the fact that when your character, like where you are, runs at 30 frames per second for the most part, and what's immediately around you, and when I say immediately, I don't mean like on the screen. I mean within like a meter of where you're standing, also runs at 30 frames per second, and I don't know, 720p if you're handheld or whatever it is. But the further you get away, the frames per second go down on everything. All the characters walking, windmills moving, grass moving, everything. The further. So when you're in this open world game and you see the open world behind you or far away from you, everything goes down, no joke, to like 2 frames per second for stuff that's
like
really
stop
far away.
motion at that point.
And you'll see the Pokemon centers, which, you know, you need to see them, and they have the big spinning Pokeball, and they are honestly not spinning. It's this like animation that's like 2 frames per second, and you'll see characters walking and they'll be like maybe 30p for their resolution, these characters, and also 2 frames per second. So it's just these weird, not even pixelated characters. Like Super Nintendo looks better than whatever these characters are doing, and it's kind of comical when you first see it, and then eventually you're like, oh damn, like this actually sucks technical wise. Like I paid money for this, and it's a Nintendo game. It's not like it was on sale. So
yeah, and it's like one of their fastest selling games ever. So it's like it's also the case of like a lot of people, you know, again, it's Pokemon. People are gonna get it no matter what. It just seems like this is a case of this is why you don't buy things day one. You gotta check things out first.
Yeah. And there's been a lot of people being like, oh, maybe the Switch can't handle it. I'm sure that plays a small role, but as we've all kind of mentioned at certain points, you know, Breath of the Wild exists and all these other open world beautiful games that can handle it. I think it's more just that Game Freak, the developers for this, one, they have like a Pokemon game coming out every 6 months or something, which is not a good idea. And two, I don't think that they as developers really know how to do the like open world kind of thing. I don't think they've really done anything like this before, and I think that it's just a matter of not knowing how to do it. Like they're just like not developers for this kind of game and have that kind of skill set maybe yet. I don't know. It could be anything. Obviously, we're all just going to speculate because we're not going to know why. Could have been Nintendo being like, I see this isn't done yet, but it has to go up before Christmas. So, you know, pitter patter, let's get at her. Put it out there.
I want to make a comment though, because like a lot of people are saying, well, how can we do Breath of the Wild, but we can't do this? Breath of the Wild, like I've had conversations about how I don't like that game and it's overrated, blah, blah, blah. But this game that I'm seeing here, like, looks a lot more like alive and lived in. Whereas Breath of the Wild, as much as this is open sandbox game, it's pretty dead and empty. Like, it's pretty static. Like, nothing really moves compared to what I'm seeing here, where it looks like there's a lot more going on.
Oh yeah, if you compare this to say even just, you know, even in the same year, Pokemon Legends Arceus doesn't have nearly as much in terms of like NPCs and things like that. So there's not nearly as much for the CPU to have to try to handle. I think what might have happened here though is like they either didn't have enough time to really test through this and go through, or they were maybe a little too ambitious with it to see how much they could push. So as a proof of concept, because I've heard a lot of things too, and Chris, I'm sure you can say the same, that the changes in terms of the game are very positive. It seems like what they've done in terms of how the game is operating is very good. It just seems this specifically in terms of its technical specifications, in terms of the graphics, in terms of stuff like that, didn't go so well. It may have been a case of they couldn't do both, so one had to suffer. And generally in Pokemon games, this can suffer more than the game can suffer.
Yes. It's weird. This is the best and worst Pokemon game I've ever played in my life. Because gameplay wise, this is my favorite Pokemon. I was obsessed. I couldn't put it down. There's a lot of stuff they added, like co-op, being able to just be in the world with like three of your friends online or locally. And you're all running around in the same world, and you'll see one battle of Pokemon next to you, but you can like keep walking, find another Pokemon, and do your own battle, and you can see both of it happening like in real time on each other's screen and everything. Going and doing 4-player like raid battles. Like you can basically do everything except for like the big story moments. Those are all individual because of the cinematics and all of that kind of stuff. You can't like go to a gym leader and fight them together, but you can do everything else and go to the gym together. It's honestly like it's the greatest Pokemon game I've ever played. But the technical part of it is like maybe the Switch isn't able to do this, or maybe it's just not ready. So I think Adam, you said proof of concept. I would say that's the best way to look at this. It's kind of like a glimpse into the blueprint of what a Pokemon game can be in the future when maybe the hardware, I guess, catches up and we could actually have this really amazing, great open Pokemon game that almost feels like a 4-player MMO in a weird way because of how everything works, which is it's very exciting. And again, even with all of the graphics, I just told myself to kind of ignore everything going on in the distance. And I had the most fun playing this. If I think Game Freak came out with a Pokemon game that was super linear again, kind of like the other ones, where it was like, go to the building, okay, take Route 1, go to the next gym. Take Route 2, go to the next gym. And they just did that. I think people would have lost their minds that it's just literally the same format. Again, here's 150 new Pokemon, go. Where this one, it's got like raid events coming out. There's like a level 100 Charizard event coming December 1st, and you got to like go into a group of 4, go and do, and you can battle it. And if you actually do defeat it, you get to catch it. And it's like a guaranteed catch instead of like the kind of having to get its health down to a certain thing. It's like, no, you got to literally make it faint, then you can catch it kind of thing. So there's like a lot of cool quality of life and gameplay changes, making it more open, the multiplayer aspect. Like it's so amazing the changes they made that I think it is the best, but the technical aspects makes it the worst running Pokemon since the Game Boy. So it's very interesting.
It really feels like the kind of game that whether it's whatever the next Switch is, if they continue to go this route, which I figure they will because it seems to have worked so well, or even if, who knows, maybe even 6 months down the road, once they've been doing patch after patch after patch, maybe this does even end up being in a much more stable state and we can see what it probably would have looked like. I think what people see, especially, it doesn't help that Arceus came out in the same year, so you can literally compare the two, and one looks so much better than the other. And you're thinking, okay, if you could just take what Arceus does graphically and put that in Scarlet and Violet, this could have been like Game of the Year potential, it seems.
Yeah. Yeah, that's very, very true, I would say.
I think one of the things though is I think Adam was onto something really interesting in that like we had Pokemon Let's Go Pikachu and Eevee, which was like a proof of concept of like, hey, we can kind of do this gameplay where like the Pokemon are open out in the wild, that kind of, because like there's elements of that DNA there, and then there's the Arceus whatever. Like I could see them kind of doing like both of those and be like, hey, both of these work, went on here, and it's like, oh, bit off more than we could chew, and by that point you're too far into it that you're just like,
yeah,
whatever, go with it. My other question is, there was rumors of a Super Nintendo Switch, and that's not the actual term, but like I wonder if this was meant to be for like a potential Super Nintendo Switch, and then just that got pulled and stuck it on this hardware.
Very good point. I actually hadn't even thought of that, because it's not like they would stop production of the new Pokemon game that they know is going to sell like crazy. I think it's sold like over 10 million copies or something already. Like it's something
insane. Like everybody's talking about how
ridiculous.
God of War has sold so well. Pokemon is just
yeah, it doubled God of War in 3 days, which is like Nintendo's just like, right, counting money. Put it into the Chris Pratt.
Which is also the big reason too of why they've released so many. So like this is the fit, like if you don't count I think it's Pokemon Quest, like the Roblox looking one. They've put like 5 out, I think, already. Well, because there's Quest, but then there's also, as Kaylan said, oh my god, why did I just Pikachu? Thank you. And then there's also Sword and Shield, and then there's Arceus, and then there's now Scarlet and Violet. So that's a lot in the span of like the Switch's life cycle already. And it brings up the argument is, are they like oversaturating the console right now? Because you could argue like, I mean, God of War, like for those who've forgotten, God of War, the original reboot, was 2018. It's been a while.
4 years.
Yeah.
Years.
So like I feel it. I mean, granted, I think 2019 and 2022 was the difference between Sword and Shield and now Scarlet and Violet. Although Arceus is also in between that, and both of those are Game Freak. And if I remember correctly, because I was just watching the Digital Foundry video, and I think they're at a staff of like 170 or something. They were saying that's not a great thing to put two games of that scope on a team of that size in the same year, no less.
And it was right before that that I think Brilliant Diamond, that remake of the older one, Brilliant Diamond and Pearl.
Shining Pearl, yeah.
Yeah, I think they came out only like months before Arceus did too. Like I'm pretty sure in the last 2 years they made 3 Pokemon games or something ridiculous. I may not have the dates correct, but it's insane.
It's definitely at a point that like they either need to maybe space it out a little bit more, which tell a company that that's their bread and butter for making money right now, that to slow it down a bit. Or at the very least, if they want to put more Pokemon content in the Aether, you've got other developers or other teams that you could potentially pawn it off to and do something else with, instead of, having Game Freak basically taking the full load of any console release.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, and we say this, but I feel like it's going to sell 10 million copies no matter what.
Oh yeah, it's selling in spite of itself. Like this has been literally paraded around as like a joke of a game to people who actually haven't played it. Like I've seen all of the complaints, as everybody has probably seen if you just search Twitter, Reddit, or any other your social media, drop boxes over and over. Like it's inevitable that people are going to be poking so much fun at it. But at the same time, like as someone who hasn't played it, I have no voice on this. I can say how god awful it is. Doesn't matter. Look how much it's sold.
Well, I think this goes back to the comment I made about Mario, in that like this game is not designed for 30-year-old hardcore gamers. Could we enjoy it? Absolutely. But it's just as much designed for 10-year-olds, right? And they're playing Roblox, like they're playing Fortnite. Like the bar is very low. And I'm not saying this in an insulting way, but the bar is low in terms of what they're willing to accept from a game. Is the game fun? Are they catching Pokemon? Yeah, cool. They don't care about what's the frame rates of like the game.
No.
So like it's one of those like, yeah, I can see why us as like adults who, we're spending our money on it. We are playing God of War as a comparison. Like you're 10 and you're like, hey, this is the game I bought. I'm going to be playing it for the next 6 months. You live with it and we accept it. And we did that with our games when we were that age. So like, I think is it acceptable? No, like it sucks that the game came out in this stage and they're charging people for it, but the audience who this is designed for doesn't care.
And even if you look at like just the general audience too, the ones who have played it, they still seem to love it too.
And I'm not being pejorative when I say like the audience is designed for. Like I'm not saying that this is not for. If you're an adult and you want to play Pokemon, cool, go for it. I am not shaming, not gatekeeping or anything, but like the audience for Pokemon is much bigger than the hardcore gaming audience. And and I'd say a large portion of that group doesn't care. They're like, hey, I'm playing Pokemon. I'm in the wild. Holy cow, Billy from next door is playing Pokemon with me. Like, how many of us would have killed for that when we were kids?
Yes. Actually, that's the craziest part. And I think that's why I love this game so much. On release day, I went, oddly enough, I played with 4 people, but like in person. We all went to somebody's house and we all sat in a circle and played for 6 hours straight. And I brought my fiance because it was actually at her parents' house, because it was her mom who bought a Switch Lite and Pokemon to play it. So it was 2 of our family friends, my fiance's mom, and me, and then my fiance upstairs waiting to kill me because she wanted to go home like 5 hours ago. But we were just in the basement playing Pokemon like it was 1996 and we had our Game Boys hooked up with that link cable. Like it was back just to that. And I think that was the big selling point for me, because that was the most fun I've had like co-op in a video game in such a long time, because it was just straight, like you all went into the same world with each other and you just went. And like somebody would see a Pokemon and everybody would yell and run for the same area because hopefully they could try and catch one too. But then if somebody caught one, it's gone. Now there's no more in the area. Like, I don't know. It was just.
Then Chris saw a Bulbasaur and everything had to stop. He's like, I gotta catch it, guys. It's my favorite one.
Sadly, I don't think Bulbasaur is in there yet.
We had a conversation earlier that Bulbasaur is Chris's favorite Pokemon, and we laughed at him.
And because it's so hilarious how accurate I am. I just like him, all right? I know he's not the best one. It's just I like him.
He's not even the best starter.
He was my starter.
Yeah,
I always chose
does
him.
Bulbasaur wear glasses? Does he wear cool sunglasses? Huh?
No, he doesn't.
Then he doesn't. Then no.
Team Charmander.
Team Charmander. I don't know. Squirtle is pretty cool too. I mean, I like all of them.
I mean,
Those ones.
He literally evolved. Like, yeah, I'll give Squirtle over Bulbasaur. He evolves to have cannons coming out of his shell.
Yeah, well, Venusaur has a big flower, all right?
I mean, technically, Solar Beam might as well be a cannon at that point.
That's right. That's right. I forgot about Solar Beam. All of the
Bulbasaur.
arguments that adults have.
Well, it's better than some arguments that you see online, so it could be worse.
True. Very true.
This is what I thought I'd be talking about in my 30s. What Pokemon is the best one?
Well, instead you're too busy, growing that Kratos spirit over here. So why don't we just switch off to God of War here?
Segue.
Talk about get us getting older. Well, there's the thing about being a dad.
It actually came when I got my son. I'm like, I gotta grow the beard now.
I mean,
Smart.
Makes sense to me.
Yep.
So obviously, myself and Chris have both finished the game. Kaylan, without spoiling, roughly how far are you?
I'd say I'm probably like finishing up the second act. It's a huge game. But I'm finishing up probably the second act. I've gotten to that point. It's not a spoiler, so don't plug your ears. But I'm at that point where they're like, "Hey, we could proceed if you want, or is there anything you want to finish up before we go?" Like, how they kind of do that when you're like,
yeah, they kind of give you the "Hey, if you got side quests, you better go do them."
Yeah. So I don't know how far I'm at, but they're starting to bring out that line. So I figure I'm probably getting close to the end of the second act. So yeah, great game.
I was going to say, so I mean, Chris, obviously both of I have finished it. Or both of us have finished it. Both of I have finished it. Wow.
Both of I.
that was a word. Obviously, God of War getting the Game of the Year nomination at the Game Awards. We'll get into some of those towards the end of the show. We won't get into all of them because why would we go through like 30 something categories? That'll take forever. Yeah. But do you think that? I mean, I'm assuming you would think it deserves at least the nomination. Do you think though that you would call that Game of the Year?
Me personally, it's a very strong contender. Like, there's other great games from this year that I did love, and many of them are actually also nominated, oddly enough, which actually makes sense. But I don't know. I think God of War could be my favorite. The writing in that game is like a well-written novel. Like, it is such good writing. Some of the lines that Kratos says and stuff like that, like, I just really, really thought, maybe it could also be just like other games I played. I'm like, oh wow, this is just generic like crap writing that they're throwing in. But I don't know. The God of War game for me is quite possibly Game of the Year.
Yeah, I mean, we'll obviously towards the end of the year, we'll talk about like our games of the year. And in our case, because we obviously don't play everything on launch, it'll be a mishmash of things that we played that actually came out this year and things in the past. It's definitely in the running for any of the games that I've played through this year, for sure. In terms of games that came out this year, it's definitely like, it's going to be one or two at this point, given my list of what I've played. It's just going to be I'm still going to be flip-flopping between that and Horizon for probably the rest of the year, just figuring out which I'm going to pick between the two. Because I have a lot of things to love about both of them, and I also have a lot of things that I didn't like about both of them. So it's going to be kind of like weighing which things I kind of dislike the most and trying to take the scores off of that. Because similar to Horizon, this might even just be a personal thing for me. I didn't finish a lot of the open world elements because I just finally got burnt out. It might be just an overall burnout thing for me, but I also didn't find a lot of the open world stuff to be nearly as, I think, interesting as, say, the main story was. I felt too interested in finishing the main story to care about much of the other stuff going on.
Yeah, I'll interject there because like I haven't beaten it yet, so I can't speak to the story aspect. But like, I love God of War. It's a fantastic game, but it's a flawed game in and of itself. And I see the game getting a lot of praise, which it certainly deserves. But I feel like it is in the same boat as like Elden Ring, where it is just getting so high praise and no one is speaking about the weaknesses of that game. And like, I'm not like, I'm of a different mind. Like, I've just been going through Midgard, just doing collectibles, and I like it. Like, I'm finding I'm enjoying that aspect of the game, and the navigation. But for me, like, I kind of prefer God of War 2018 over Ragnarok so far.
I
And I
actually
mean
agree.
that opinion
Yeah.
might change once the story finishes and stuff, but like I felt that game was tighter. I thought it was more cohesive. And it kind of made sense, like the open world made sense. Like this one, it seems more disjointed. It seems like, I don't know, it's not as interesting and exciting. And it may just be because this is our second time into like Norse mythology, but for me, like I'm finding it very repetitive in the sense of like, oh, okay, I'm fighting elves again. Oh, I'm fighting draugrs again. Like there's not a lot of variety, and this is like you brought up Horizon. Horizon has its own problems, and we've talked about that in the podcast before. But where I felt like Horizon did well is that there was a lot of variety in villain in like enemies that I'm fighting. There's a lot of variety. I'm not feeling the variety. I'm not feeling like there's a lot of change. Like once you've played the first few hours of combat in Ragnarok, you've played it all. Like you've seen it. And like I feel like where I felt Horizon had a weaker story, and I didn't care about the story in Horizon, I like the gameplay better. Whereas I think I'm more captivated in God of War by the stories, by the characters, and less about the gameplay. So is this game of the year worthy? I could totally see an argument, and it may end up being my game of the year, but I also can see an argument for why it might not be.
Yeah, I think very
Yeah.
much that in the same boat that you just said, it might actually feel about Ragnarok the same way that I feel about Forbidden West, that I liked it, but I think because the original was so fresh and new at the time, that I think I love the original more. And now that I've already seen it once, they didn't build upon it enough to make me love it as much as the first time. It's not to say that Ragnarok isn't fantastic. For a AAA game, by the way, too, where AAA games a lot of the time very well under deliver, I think God of War Ragnarok over delivered, but not a lot, but enough that I felt like, I didn't get, cheated out of money or whatever. Like it doesn't feel like they just haphazardly threw a sequel in. It feels they genuinely tried to do better.
Yes.
They also failed in some regards too, but that's a whole thing of like give and take. There are a lot of things that you'll like about Ragnarok. There's a few things back and forth that you won't like about it either. I think the biggest one to me is the fact that Kratos no longer has all the skills that he developed over the first game, so you feel like you as Kratos take a step back, which is weird.
I mean, that's just sequelitis. Like they have that in
Yeah.
like that happened in
Yeah.
Horizon.
You
and,
think
like,
they could have kept a little more though, like just a tiny bit more, just to at least make it feel like from the start that you had more than just, as usual, throw axe, swing axe. Like it feels like it was just that again. Where like I would have at least like a couple of things again, just to make it feel like I've actually faced a couple of people like I do in the first game. I have some battle tests, with the axe that I'm holding. Instead of, oh, I guess I'm starting from like it's like Metroid all over again. You lost all your power ups. Start over.
Hey, at least
I think-
Metroid tries to explain it. Samus runs in, hit by something. Ah, no, my suit and powers. They're
Trips
all gone.
trips
Time to
over, and all the
start.
power ups fall into the sewer grate.
it happens to all of us. I think for me,
Yeah.
like I disagree because like I was kind of impressed with the fact that you started the game and like you have the chains of Olympus.
That
or
at least
chains
makes
of
the
Chaos.
beginning better because you at least have like a couple options to start with compared to just one.
Yeah, that is true. That is true.
The thing for me, going back to what I'm saying with like the enemies, but I was just thinking like even the world feels static. Like considering like this is Ragnarok, like this is supposed to be like the pinnacle, like the end. And I think it's like this is happening just before. Once again, no spoilers, but this is happening like just before Ragnarok occurs. But like the world's static. Like you're not seeing this desolation. You're not seeing like things falling apart. It's just like things are different, but kind of staying the same. Like I don't know. I wish to like that there was like more evolution in the world from where you started to like at least where I'm at now, where like I kind of wish that there was more. You kind of see things falling apart. You see things getting worse because like you don't right now. Like the way you enter the world is the way it is as of the time I'm playing right now, and I might come back and eat those words later, but right now it's kind of all right. I've seen Midgard. All right, I've seen Alfheim. It looks pretty much the same. Like,
Yeah, there's not much difference. Yeah. And I completely agree with you about the disjointed feeling from the different realms and stuff. It's almost like the original game, it actually felt like it was one big world and you kind of went through it as the story intended. You could do some side stuff and come back, but it was still like one long big world. Where this one, it feels like there's all these mini worlds and like a hub, and you just kind of go to each little map. kind of like each is its own little island and you have to like travel between each or something. I definitely did feel that disjointed feeling from everything. It didn't feel the same flow between everything like in the first game. And I completely agree with you about the enemies, where there's like 6 different enemy types and you just fight them on repeat. Very much.
And I mean,
so.
2018, like I said, which is the better game, had that same problem in that like you're fighting basically trolls, draugrs, and elves. But the difference is like that was new, that was fresh at the time. We've seen that already, and now you're coming to us 4 years later, and I mean, there's more boss battles and stuff, but you're also like still fighting the same enemies you did 4 years ago. And I granted, you're stuck in the realm of like mythology and like you can't create new stuff, but like change it up, like make them look different, make them active. It's just repetitive.
Yeah, it seems like the big thing with this game was going to be the story was going to be the main driving point, and that clearly shows in this game, which is why obviously I gravitated very well towards it instead of, because I didn't do most of the, I guess what replaced the Valkyries in this game, I guess like I can't even think of what they were called, just like all the mini bosses, like and also like that was my biggest complaint too, and I told Chris about this, a while back when we were talking total spoilers about it. I'm not going to spoil too much, but I found that this version of it actually stood out more as a detriment because I felt like in terms of the entire game as a whole, these mini bosses served as being way bigger in scope in terms of how difficult they were compared to like most of the bosses in the actual like main part of the story. And sure, that's probably by design because you want the main story bosses to, not be gatekeeping to the point that you can't beat them at all. But at the same time, there were a few bosses throughout the game that I felt like this is way too easy. Like, this is too much of a cakewalk. I feel like, and sure, I'm playing on I'm not playing on like the hardest difficulty, but I still feel like compared to even like the first of those mini bosses I faced was way harder than most of what I faced through the entire game if I go through the story.
Yeah. No, I totally agree. Like I was trying to do the Berserker and then I'm like, screw this, I'll come back and fight you later.
I think I maybe did 3 or 4 of them, and then after that I went, no, I'm good. I'm sure there might be something cool at the end of it, but I don't think it's worth the trouble that I'm gonna have to go through to do this.
Yeah.
At least with the Valkyries, I felt like they were fair. I find some of the Berserker ones I don't find are as fair as the Valkyrie ones were. It might just be also
when you get to the end. When you get to the end, they're like near impossible. I beat them, but like holy crap, they felt like near impossible. I got the platinum, so I went and got everything. And some of the side quests, I will admit, add lore and add to the story. You don't think they're going to, which is kind of my real complaint with it. It's like you're doing this little side quest and you're like, oh, and all of a sudden there's like a big update to the lore at the end. And you're like, oh, shit. Okay, cool. I didn't know that was going to happen. Like it's in other games, it's kind of like you can tell, like Witcher 3. This is going to be a big, cool side quest. This one is go defeat 5 monster nests. Like you can tell kind of which one's going to be which. And with the God of War one, you think you're doing this little like, oh, there's probably like a piece of armor at the end of this little quest, and all of a sudden, boom, big piece to the story. And it's like, oh, all right, cool. I didn't do that. So there is good side quests that have stuff, but you would not be able to pick them out and focus on them over just the other basic ones that offer not much of a reward, to be honest.
Yet, admittedly, by the time the game was over, I found out, because I watched afterwards, because I wanted to see if there's anything I missed. I found there's a couple of things post-game that I didn't actually get to see that I'm a little sad that I didn't get to, but at the same time, I'm like, it's a brief like cutscene that I can watch, whatever, no big deal. And at that point, I think I played enough to go, you know what? It was a good experience. Why don't I just cut it here before I maybe go any deeper and maybe find something else that I'm not going to like about it? So it seemed like, because I want to say I'd maybe put, like 20, 25, maybe 30 at most. I don't think that far, but definitely around that much.
I think all in for the platinum, I did about 45 hours. And that was mostly just redoing like the hard mini boss, like side stuff.
I'm working my way towards getting the platinum eventually. So first got to beat the game, but yeah, I'm liking it. The only thing, and I mean, this is not something new. It's not a controversial opinion. I am so frustrated with, like, I like the puzzles, but like, my God, they give away the answers like as soon as you get to the puzzle, and it's so annoying.
You can turn that off but it's weird that it's on by default. It should be off by default, and then you can turn it. Yeah, it's under the accessibility.
Yeah, there's
options.
some accessibility. I turned the accessibility option for the puzzle time because there were a couple of the I think the Nornir chests that I'm like, okay, this is really, really short in how much time I have to do these. And I saw that there was an option that actually makes the timer bigger. And I'm like, you know what? Screw it. Like, it's still a challenge to find all the things and figure out how to do them. I don't care about the timing aspect. I just want to hit the 3 things and be done with it. So, like, they've definitely done a couple of things that, you know, either if you turned on or off, it would definitely enhance or, you know, at least get rid of a few of the things that are kind of bugging you. So it seems like they did a pretty good job on that aspect, too.
Yeah, I need to check that up. But it is so annoying. Like, you get to a puzzle, and as soon as you get there, like, hey, do this. I'm like, I just got here. Give me a second to get my bearings.
Mimir's like, you know, why don't you throw your axe at it, brother? And you're like, I was gonna try that. Give me a second.
Yeah,
I'm just waiting for it to come back.
Yeah, just waiting for it to come back. Yeah, it sucks that was on by default. This game has amazing accessibility features. Like there was certain things where you could turn on if you die during a boss or mini boss, it'll keep where its health was. If you got say halfway, when you return later to fight again, the health is still at half instead of starting from scratch and stuff. And you could make it where it turned either off, like those puzzle hints, you could make it a lot longer before they said something, and you could turn them off, I think, fully. So there was all these options, but for some reason in the accessibility, when you install the game, it's set to like give you hints very quickly right away. I don't know why that was on by default.
It's definitely one of those cases where, you know, if you had read, like, I'm sure there's some article out there be like 10 things that God of War doesn't tell you that you should turn on in the options menu. Like, there's always sometimes articles like that come out and you go, yeah, why isn't that a thing that I knew about?
To be fair, they probably went with the lowest like default because the people who are morons like me who did not look at the accessibility thing would not be smart enough to be like, hey, can I turn this down? They'd just be like, oh, that's how it is. I'm gonna live with it.
Yeah,
I like
that was super annoying.
I know I've been ragging on the game, but I'm loving it. I'm enjoying it. It's a great game. But my thing in that, and I had the same argument with Elden Ring, which I don't think I ever talked about, but where it's getting so much praise, and I don't like it deserves all that praise, and it's doing really well. And yeah, it's great, but it's not without its faults, and I don't feel like the faults being talked about enough.
Yeah, when it's AAA, you find that they get more of a free pass because we're so used to AAA in these days being like super under delivering like messes so often that I think when we see a game of this magnitude that's actually very well put together, like despite like issues with the game we may have, like it's a very technically sound game. Like there's not a lot of problems with it technically. So you got to applaud them for, you know, actually doing what a AAA game is supposed to be, which is come out in a very good state at launch. So I think that gets lost by the wayside. And also because this is inevitably going to be one of the biggest games of the year, people do kind of turn their brains off to negativity and immediately just want to hype even more just to get people going. So I think it's a mixture of that. I think, you know, in about 6 months from now, I don't think we're going to be talking about God of War Ragnarok the same way that we talked about God of War 2018. I think we're still going to be looking at this game being like, solid sequel, but we're not going to be looking at God of War Ragnarok the same way that a lot of people say looked at Mass Effect 2.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think it'll be one that like, hey, if you got a PS5, you need to play God of War, but I don't think it's going to be one of those games that will transcend the generation kind of thing.
Yeah, completely agree. Completely.
We talked though about how awesome that squirrel is in
Yes.
Yggdrasil.
Oh my god, I have a
that is one of the coolest that is one of the coolest character designs in video games in like a long time.
And my favorite thing was the friggin' angry squirrel. That is my favorite character in the entire game.
Yeah, so funny story. I had my 6-year-old nephew over, and he came over while it was like during work hours, but I was playing God of War. I was on lunch, and sure enough, he's like, "Oh, can I see the?" Yeah, so I work from home. What are you gonna do? So I'm playing God of War, and he comes over. And I'm like, oh, okay, this is not for him. Like, not even the violence, just the sheer amount of just F-bombs and stuff in that game. But I'm there, I'm just outside the hut, and there's the squirrel. I'm like, oh, okay, fine. I can show him this cool squirrel. It'll be all right. So there's my 6-year-old nephew. He's like, oh, this game, oh, that's a cool squirrel. I'm like, yeah, he keeps the tree clean or something. I don't know. I'm trying to make up whatever it is. And it's the cutscene where Kratos, I don't remember if it's him meeting him or just talking with him. And then the squirrel goes to ask the angry squirrel a question, and the angry squirrel at the top of his lungs
Fuck
goes,
off, I'm busy.
"Fuck off, I'm busy." And then I'm like, oh my God, like my nephew's been here 3 minutes. 3 minutes. Like, how on earth? It's the squirrel character. That's like the one safe character you thought wouldn't have
Nope.
the giant F-bomb. And I'm like, all right, well, we're going to put on something else. And he's like, no, I like that game. I'm like, yeah, I bet you do. We're going to put on something else. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, Ratatoskr is definitely one of my favorites.
Yeah, it's definitely super cool.
But yeah, it's definitely going to be, I think it's Game of the Year material. I don't know if it should win, and if we want to even just seamlessly transition here, we can move right into at least a couple of Game Awards. I know that usually on a normal day we would end close to this. Kaylan, how much time do you got for us? Do you still have enough time for us?
Oh yeah, we're good.
Okay, so we can go a little bit longer here. All right, so for you, the fans, let's talk about some of the Game Awards stuff here. So, I mean, we'll start with the big one right off the bat. I'll pop this up on our trusty browser screen for those watching on YouTube. And here we got, obviously, Game of the Year. So we have Plague Tale Requiem, which I know, Chris, did you actually finish that?
100%ed it.
Okay.
Loved it.
So, and I'm sure you love that because I know you love the original.
Yeah, this is one of those ones.
It was so good. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, this is one of those sequels where, like God of War Ragnarok feels like the first game with a little bit better. It feels like the first game times 10. Like, they really did up the sequel.
But yeah, so we have A Plague Tale Requiem, Elden Ring, God of War Ragnarok, Horizon Forbidden West, Stray, and Xenoblade Chronicles 3. I feel like it's kind of poetic that these two are on the bottom off screen because I don't think those two are getting included. No. I think they're just there because, well, we needed some sort of an indie game in there, and then I guess we had to put a Nintendo one in here somewhere. But it's really going to be, honestly, I think it's between Elden Ring and God of War just based on, like, where I see in terms of how the fan bases are operating and where, like, the media is kind of operating. I honestly think it's a toss-up. I don't know how you guys are feeling. I'm leaning to Elden Ring just because of, I feel like Jeff Keighley's connection with From Software is a little bit bigger and his fan base is a bit bigger, so I almost feel like there's a bit of bias that might come in with that game getting more votes. I think it's a toss-up, though. I'm actually not 100% sure. I'm going with Elden Ring just because of the gut feeling, but I don't know if it's really that obvious.
I feel like this can go one of both ways, and like I've played the top three here. I haven't played Plague Tale Requiem, but I did Elden Ring, God of War, and Horizon Forbidden West. And it's interesting because each one of those, I feel like if I had to drop one, it'd be Horizon. And Elden Ring and God of War both deserve Game of the Year, but they also don't. And they're like, for both aspects, it's for completely different reasons. I think Elden Ring has really good gameplay. It's really neat what it does. This was my first foray into FromSoft, and I loved it. I had my issues with the game. I didn't finish it, and I feel like there's problems in the later half of the game. At the same time, what it does is really unique, and there's no experience like that. However, God of War, we've talked about the issues that we had with that game, but where Elden Ring, I think, had better gameplay, I think the story was kind of disjointed. And I know there's going to be people who come at me and they're like, oh, there's a whole lore for Elden Ring. Shut up. There probably is, but it's not clearly there. And like, no one's playing it for the story. Whereas God of War has, I think, once again, haven't finished it and it could go sideways, has a really good story, but I find the gameplay is probably a little boring. So yeah, I can see going both ways. I don't know. We'll have to see where it goes. I think God of War, just because it's going to have a wider, broader audience.
It may also have the recency bias too, which is why I was like flip-flopping between two.
Elden Ring 2, like, it sold huge, but like a lot of people probably dropped out of it, and like a lot of people like didn't finish it, or it wasn't for them. Like, it was a huge sale, but that doesn't necessarily translate to completion of the game, right?
Yeah.
And so I could see people being like, oh yeah, it was cool, wasn't for me. Like, it's a smaller, more niche, and I'm saying that very loosely because I know like millions of people have played it, but compared to God of War, right?
Yeah, it's definitely between those two, I think, for sure. I mean, I honestly for me, it's between God of War and Plague Tale, but I know that Plague Tale just doesn't have the numbers of votes behind it. Like, it's a much, like, great game, but it's a much less popular game when compared to something like Elden Ring and God of War.
Yeah, getting the nomination is more of a nod from, like, the Game Awards side of being like, look, y'all should play this game.
Yeah. Yeah, because honestly, it's up there for a Game of the Year kind of game. Like, it's so very, very good. Has its faults, of course, just like all the other ones do. But when put up against these games, like, my memories of this year and the games that I played, like it's up there as competing with God of War for how much I enjoyed it as a game when it came out. So, but yeah, no, I think it's going to be Elden Ring probably, or I don't know, like the Elden Ring and God of War. I keep going back and forth for different reasons on why they'll win.
It really depends on what's stronger, right? Because with Ragnarok, it's the recency bias. With Elden Ring, though,
Yes.
I've never seen a game in like my recent memory that has been nonstop talked about for such a long period of time. Like I still know people that are talking about it, which is so unusual because it's like unless it's a game like a Destiny or a World of Warcraft or like a Fortnite that is constantly doing something, that's different. But like for a game that's been out for almost a full year and I still hear the odd person like still mentioning it like in circles back and forth, it's still kind of crazy to me.
I mean, granted, no, I'll put a little caveat there because those FromSoft kids are kind of weird. They'll be like, "Hey, I'm gonna do a no death run on a Fisher Price xylophone," and like that's what they do. So like,
I love those videos.
right? So like, I
Well,
mean,
that
yeah,
is
the
kinda
5 minute
true.
clip,
we're
the
talking
5 minute
about, but
clips of them.
yeah. Like it's a pretty small group that just doesn't shut up about FromSoft games. And once again, they're great, but like, there's that group that just doesn't shut up about them.
Okay, let's see. I'm gonna try to only do a couple here, so we're not spending all day on them. Let's do, yeah, you know what? Performance might be a good one. So let me get a second here to pull that back up. There we go. So let me see. Is there anything below these 5? Nope. So this is what we got here. So we have Ashley Birch, who was Aloy for Horizon. Charlotte McBurney. I don't know what character that is in Plague Tale. Chris, do you know?
Misia,
it's
the main
character.
the main girl. Yeah.
Obviously, Christopher Judge is Kratos in God of War. Menon Gage in Immortality, which I actually haven't even heard of before.
I actually played that. There's these Sam Barlow, I think is his name. He does these FMV games where it's like you go and you're an FBI agent, you have a computer and you have to type in a keyword and it'll
It's kind of like Her
give you a bunch of
Story.
videos. It's the same guy who did Her Story,
okay.
did one called Immortality. Very cool game where it's about an actress who made 3 movies. All 3 movies never got released and she disappeared. And it's about you looking at the footage of the movies by searching. You have to click on an item. Like if there's an apple in one scene, you'll click on it and it'll take you to another scene in one of the other movies where there's an apple on the screen. And it's about finding all of the scenes so you can put together what happened to her. It's like a murder mystery through FMV video.
I'll have to remind
and she's just the actress.
Because I really liked Her Story, so I would totally be into that.
Amazing game, and it's on Game Pass. That's how I got to it.
Nice. And then yeah, the other one would also be Sunny Soljic for God of War Ragnarok, who obviously was Atreus. So
Can I interject for a moment just to kind of once again highlight how dumb I am? I was looking at it, I'm like, Sunny? Who's the hell's Sunny? Like, there's no character named Sunny in God of War. What the hell? Like, is there some late end game character? Like, is this a spoiler?
Dude, you didn't
I'm
see
dumb.
Sunny? Oh, you're not there yet. You haven't seen Sunny yet.
I'm dumb.
you see, it's daylight. You see Sunny all the time in the sky. Just look up.
I am so dumb.
But yeah,
it's so good.
I think this is similar. Like, I think it's probably Kratos that gets it.
It's 100% Kratos. The emotional ride I'm having, I am getting daddy issues from this game, and then I'm also having moments with like Kratos where like I am having like the delivery of Kratos. I'm like, I just want a hug from Kratos. Like that's where I'm at. Like,
yeah, like,
the amount of
I
daddy
think
issues I have received.
I think there's a very small dark horse chance for Ashley Birch, but I think there's almost like a no contest with this. That just because A, the recency bias, and B, Christopher Judge put fucking work in for this game.
Yeah, his emotional delivery.
I didn't like Ashley Birch as Aloy in this game. Like I thought it was like she was kind of just phoning it in a little bit.
I actually felt the opposite. I thought she did a great job because she was not taking shit for anything. She was playing like the world is gonna fucking die. Can we stop like doing dumb shit?
Wish every side quest she just said that instead. You couldn't even do side quests. It's just the world's gonna die. I'm not doing dumb shit.
I'm gonna pull up Best Indie next because I'm pretty sure I know exactly where Kaylan's gonna go with this one. I can't possibly imagine between Cult of the Lamb, Neon White, Sifu Stray, or Tunic which one Kaylan's gonna lean towards.
New Wool Order all the way.
I haven't played Cult of the Lamb yet. I have to.
I don't know if you listen to our if you listen to the podcast.
Oh, of course.
Yeah, so you know all about the New Wool Order.
I know everything that you have to say about Cult of the Lamb. It is very high praise.
It's interesting though that Cult of the Lamb is getting the nominee, and I figure it should win, but because Stray also is Game of the Year nomination, it's kind of like an interesting kind of perspective on it, but I don't know if Stray might get the votes the way that Call of the Lamb might, because it is getting the PC crowd.
Also, so I actually have played 3. This is probably the category I've played the most in, percentage wise. And for me, it's Cult of the Lamb. Like, I love that game. That game is one of my favorite games this year. Sifu I played. Sifu wasn't great. Like, I didn't enjoy that one. I felt it was just needlessly difficult. It's very niche. Like, you need to be Street Fighter like tournament player to kind of go through that. Like the death mechanic wasn't fun. Like, I didn't enjoy that game. I didn't finish it. I even lowered the bar to as easy as it could get, and I'm just like, I don't care. And Tunic is neat. Tunic is, I got to spend more time with it. Tunic to me is a Legend of Zelda classic 90s game. It's great, but I think Cult of the Lamb is just like, mwah. I cannot recommend that game to enough people. Like, it is, if you like that Animal Crossing kind of sim, great. If you like that roguelike kind of go in and clear the dungeon, it's got that. Like, it's so fun, and like just the dark humor of what you're doing is just amazing. Like,
Yeah,
100% play that game.
One. Sorry, go ahead. I was just gonna say, on PlayStation Stars, that new like point system PlayStation has that I think I'm the only person paying attention to. One of the things you can do is redeem for Cult of the Lamb, and it's like 6,000 points, and I'm at 4,900 or something, and it's been the one that I was going to purchase when I got enough points, if it didn't end up on like Game Pass or something in the meantime.
So good.
Yeah, I've got them both. I've got 2 of them wish listed. I've been told within my Final Fantasy randomizer community that they were pissed that Stray was the indie game picked for Game of the Year, because they figured when they looked at the list of best indie games, they said, okay, you got Cult of the Lamb and you got Neon White, and who gives a shit about the other 3, because those 2 are fucking amazing from what I've been told from my group there. Sifu, I don't think belongs, just based on what I've seen from most people, and you as well, Kaylan, from what you've said about it. I think Stray, honestly, I will hot take it and think that I think Stray gets a lot of praise just because it's a cat game. I think a lot of people kind of put some rose-colored glasses on when they play this game, because I don't think it's as interesting as people claim it is. It may just be me, but I think it was definitely overblown a lot when it came out.
I think it's also the strategy that they had in terms of release, and that they just said, hey, new PlayStation Plus, it's free, ready to go. Like, so many people just had access to it.
Yeah, a lot of people got their hands on it.
And it's just, it got proliferated that way. Whereas all these other games are behind some sort of wall.
Yeah, and like Tunic, I have nothing bad to say about it. It just looks like the kind of game that's like perfectly down the middle, but just kind of gets lost in the shuffle with a few others here. But yeah, like, I think Stray might actually get the win, just because, again, I'm thinking of logic of it's got a Game of the Year nomination, so some people may just instinctively vote because they've not played any of them.
Oh,
but like, I think honestly, based on what I've heard from like different people, including yourself, Kaylan, I think it should be Cult of the Lamb, just based on the general consensus I've seen.
Yeah, I feel like that's... Yeah.
It's such an original... I was just going to say, it's such an original concept. Like, it's not original in terms of the gameplay. Like, you've seen it before. It's very similar to like Stardew Valley in the sense of like, oh yeah, you're managing like a simulation, and then you go fight in a dungeon to get resources. It's not unusual like that. But I mean, how often are you a cult leader sacrificing like cultists in order to just gain favor so you can go like it's just such a neat concept that we don't see often.
Yeah. I definitely don't think... Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Oh, no, you finish. I was going to move on to the next things. If you got another thought, go ahead.
I was just going to say, I've played only Tunic and Stray in that, and finished both. And even with just that, I don't think Stray would win, like, between just those 2 for me. And I haven't even played any of the other big ones. So I really don't think Stray deserves it. Because I would give it to Tunic, hands down, if it became just between those 2. Because I loved the video game booklet that you collect within the video game to figure out everything. Like, I was like, this is like the 90s, but even better. Like,
it's Legend of Zelda. It's the original Legend of Zelda game with a graphical update.
Yeah, and it looks like, oh, so cute, and then it kicks your ass right away, and you're like, whoa, Legend of Zelda Dark Souls, what's going on here? It was a hard game to finish. Wow.
So I'm not going to let this take too much longer, so I'm going to do 2 more. So we're going to finish with the most anticipated game, but I figure the most interesting one that I think I could bring up aside from that would have been the best adaptations. And there's an interesting couple of ones here. I think the answer is probably obvious, but between Arcane League of Legends, Cyberpunk Edge Runners, which I still need to watch and have been told it's really good,
I've heard the same thing and haven't watched it
The
yet.
Cuphead show, Sonic 2, which is the only thing I have seen, and Uncharted, which I know have both of you seen? I know, Chris, you've seen it.
I saw Uncharted, yeah.
I saw it.
My
wife loves Uncharted. She's gonna be like, we're not gonna go see that. No,
I've heard so much about Arcane that I feel like that's probably the lead.
Yeah, I've seen that. I watched that show and I couldn't stop. And I know nothing of League of Legends, nothing.
Because I've heard so many good things about how well produced that show is.
The look of the show, the acting in the show, everything. Like honestly, to me, it's like a work of art. Like it's so beautiful and crazy. And it took like 5 or 6 years to make it, apparently, because of the animation style and everything. And if it takes that long for season 2, then it's going down on my list. Because come on, I need to know.
Oh yeah, it'll be like must see at that point.
Yeah.
I think honestly, like apart from Uncharted, which I think people are love and hate relationshiping with, honestly, like when I saw the list, I'm like, wow, like that's actually a really nice list of stuff. Because like I've heard nothing but good things about basically all of them. In particular, the first 4. Uncharted, I've seen like a bit of half and half. I think people looked at that movie and went, look, if you turn your brain off, it's fine. If you're taking it seriously, you're not going to get too much out of it. But like especially with Arcane, Edge Runners, and Sonic 2, which I have seen. And I've heard good things about Cuphead as well. Like, it's honestly so impressive that we have, like, best adaptation is actually a word that you can take seriously now because there's actually good stuff, which is, it's going to be interesting in the next little while with how many things are now getting a show or getting a movie or whatever else, because we've seen a lot of bad too. Like, don't get me started on Mortal Kombat all over again. Don't get me started on the fact that Sonic is now getting a TV show and that I'm not too interested in what's going on with that. So there's a lot of stuff that I'm worried about, but at the same time, seeing a list like this makes me go, okay, we definitely can have some really fantastic content that is loosely or directly related to video games.
See, yeah. I can see it going to Cyberpunk just because of recency bias and Cyberpunk just kind of being kind of like popular right now. By the way, Adam, I called it. By the end of the year, Cyberpunk was going to be big and people are going to be, what an awesome game it was.
I'm still waiting for it to go on the super cheap on PC. It was 50% off during the Black Friday sale, and I almost thought about it. I'm like, nope, I need at least 60 until I look at it. Come on, work harder for me.
Why don't you play it on PS5?
Because I want PC so I can have mods and stuff. That was my goal.
Oh, okay.
It's the same with Elden Ring. Like, I'm only going to get it on PC because I want to modify, especially with Elden Ring, because I want to change the difficulty because I know there are easier mods. Because I know I will never finish Elden Ring if I play it normally. So if I can find a way to make it at least a little bit more palpable for my level, I'll do it. Same with Cyberpunk. If I can have a few extra things in there that fans have done to either kind of make the tech stuff a little bit even better or even some more fun modifying stuff on PC with that kind of game. And also, for whatever reason, controller didn't feel right for me, so I figure mouse and keyboard for this one's probably my better option. So that's my goal with that, is once I can get it for a good price on PC, I'm going to take a stab at that.
That was a very long way of saying you want nude mods in order to actually play the game.
I don't need... There are nudities in the game.
Not enough.
I don't need mods for that shit. I can literally just create a character and there's my nudity right there. I just keep restarting the game. No, I'm not done.
Get a load of the nerd over here with his PC gaming.
Well, I mean... I own everything now. I have an Xbox, I have a Switch, I have a PS5, and I have a PC. So, like, technically, I've got everything. I even have a VR, for God's sake.
My life won't be complete until I add you as a friend on my Switch. That is been my goal for so many years. We must exchange stupid friend codes or whatever the hell the Switch has.
Well, last but not least, then, most anticipated game. I kind of hate and love this list at the same time because I think it's funny that that's the 5 that we picked, because honestly, I'm not looking forward to any of them, honestly, although that's for different reasons.
This is a garbage list.
But Final Fantasy XVI, Hogwarts Legacy, Resident Evil 4, Starfield, and Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom. Somebody try to tell me it's not Zelda, and I don't think you can.
Yeah, no, I feel like Zelda's going to win this. Maybe Hogwarts could... Oh, no, Starfield.
No chance. Like, I thought it could have been Starfield had that trailer not been so bad.
Zelda. And like, this is a garbage list.
It is the easiest layup I've ever seen for this category. Because look, as a Final Fantasy fan, most people are very mute on Final Fantasy these days. We're excited if it's good again, but we're kind of like...
Yeah, we know it's
I've got Persona and many other JRPGs that have kind of replaced you, so it's fine. Hogwarts Legacy, I've said many times on the show, I want it to be good, but I keep feeling that because of how long it's been in limbo, I'm not thinking too much about it. Resident Evil 4, it's a remake. Big whoop. We've already had 2 of them. No big deal. Starfield, No Man's Sky, but made by Bethesda. Okay, fine. Didn't look that great in the trailers. And then Zelda.
There's thousands of planets, and I'm sure all of them will be engaging and well crafted.
Yeah, Mass Effect proved how well that works.
Who wants to go to 1,000 planets?
God, like Todd Howard saw No Man's Sky and said, "Hey, can we do that?" And they're like, "That's not looking really good." He's like, "Do it."
Look, it just works.
It just works. No,
so like
it
it's the biggest no-brainer. Like
And
Zelda, it will continue to win this award until it comes out, honestly.
Yeah. I mean, I also hope the Zelda game is good. I feel like it has the highest chance of these to be good, of like compared to the other 4.
I think Resident Evil has the best.
I was gonna say that was the question.
They've already made it. They're like,
yeah, that's true.
Zelda has the biggest ceiling, but what do you think actually will be the best game out of the 5? That's how we'll end this off. Which do you think out of these 5 will actually be the best one? Like, in terms of
which one's gonna get rated, or which one will be like
who? Yeah, which one do you think overall, in terms of like all like users and media, is gonna get treated the best?
Zelda.
Yeah, I think Zelda will be treated the best. What will actually be the best? Final Fantasy 16. I'm going wild card.
They've already got the Legend of Zelda reviews done. Like, the game's not even out. They already got the scores done. It's 10.
I can't wait for it to come out and actually be kind of janky, and then they spend the entire time talking about how, like, oh no, these controls actually revolutionized.
It doesn't matter. Nintendo just gets a pass.
They do.
Like, hey, the game kills your mother, but you can ride a Pokemon now.
And now, anybody saying we bash Nintendo too much? Now everybody on this show owns a Switch. You can't say that we're not at least putting the money down.
Yeah, like I bought Pokemon day 1.
Yeah, we're part of the problem. Like, literally, Nintendo gets a pass. They can be
I'm not going to be part of the problem. I ain't buying it day 1.
This game causes cancer, and they'll be like, but it's a 10.
But it is the most glorious cancer you've ever had.
But it's a cancer you get while you listen to the Zelda theme.
Now you can go in the sky.
I think by the time this is all said and done, if I play all 5 of them, if I honestly guess which one I think I'll like the most, it might actually be Hogwarts Legacy.
That's the one I actually am the most excited for.
If I actually consider it, I think that might actually be the most like interesting one between all of them.
See, I am most excited for Resident Evil 4 because I've never played it, but I've heard awesome things, and the trailer looks good. Hogwarts, I have no idea what the fuck's going on there. Like, that game looks like a mess, and at some point you're fighting marionettes, then you're fighting trolls and dwarves or whatever. I have no idea.
Class.
And sometimes you're in class. Like,
that sounds a lot like a Persona game to me. All right, I'm in. Let's go.
That's true. It's 1800s Persona.
Well,
I have no idea what's going on in that game.
No, I don't think anybody does either, because every time those trailers come out, we're like, how? That's all one game?
Yeah, this is so confusing.
Takes place on
but also I want to try it.
Takes place on one of the 1,000 planets you can visit in Hogwarts Legacy.
They're actually the same game. Bethesda purchased.
Starfield Hogwarts is like multiverse. the gaming cinematic universe or whatever.
No. We already have multiverses. We don't need any more.
Wait, isn't Spider-Man 2 supposed to come out next year?
No, where the hell? Oh yeah,
was that?
I think it's kind of like in transition to be that. I wonder what their thought process is with putting those awards up, because Spider-Man 2 probably should have been on this list.
What are they thinking? They're just thinking that, can we make some money? I think, isn't it that all of those have release dates?
Yeah, I think they do.
It might be part of it. I honestly don't know what the criteria is, but either way, that list is Zelda and others. Because, like, Resident Evil 4, don't get me wrong, is good, but it's already existed, so it's a remake. So it's not nearly as, like, high on the scale as, say, a new game would be, so.
They're probably using the same engine from the 2 and 3, just,
which
like,
is
tweaked.
working just fine. So
no, it's a perfect engine. But, like, there's a lot... Like, I could probably pre-order Resident Evil 4 and feel pretty confident that it's going to be fine. There's not, like, is this going to work? What's going to happen here?
Yeah, I don't know if it's anticipation if you're already comfortable with what you're going to get. There's not really a hype train.
I mean, to be fair, that's the same argument you can make for Zelda. You think they're really going to be changing the mold that much?
You're in the sky more. That's why I'm also worried about it, because I played Skyward Sword and it was bad.
Yeah, I don't like the sky part. Why the frig is Link in the sky, man? He just does little flips and yeah, you know what I
Don't
mean?
worry.
Like, just do that.
Zelda Breath of the Wild 3, you go to space.
Oh God.
You can visit
Oh, it's-
10. You can visit 1,000 planets. All of them unique.
Also in the same universe.
Legend of
Is
Zelda, Breath of the Starfields.
Is this Hogwarts?
Oh my God.
I mean,
That-
Kingdom Hearts kind of did something like this at one point, so it's gonna happen
Oh
with all the
God,
other.
I don't know.
Kingdom
We don't need to go
Hearts
on that diatribe because Kingdom Hearts
Kingdom
4 is
Hearts is
pissing me
just
off too.
That's just a shotgun blast of throw everything at the wall. That's the epitome of a brainstorm where no idea is a bad idea, and they're like, "Sure, throw it in."
Kingdom Hearts is Hideo Kojima with the ability to use licenses.
Oh man, I would love if he had that power.
Can you imagine
Holy-
Hideo Kojima like having like I don't know like control of Marvel
To
game?
be fair, he got a taste of it with Monster Energy drink, and we saw how that went.
I've still got to play Death Stranding too.
I need
Maybe
to get
someday.
Monster.
We gave him an inch, and he just took it. He just ran with it.
He's like, "This is what you wanted, isn't this what you guys wanted?"
That was a test, Kojima. That was a test, and you failed, sir. No, you do not get any licenses.
Chris is right. Kojima's asking, "Is this what you wanted?" And we play Death Stranding. And we like, I don't know what we want anymore.
Yeah, I don't know. I guess I could be an Amazon delivery guy. I don't know.
I like to imagine that Hideo Kojima is like he knows that his games are just batshit insane, make no sense, and he's just like, watch, I could get even fucking crazier, and they're just gonna say I'm a genius.
And the sad part is we did.
And I
But
can
you're
get Daryl from The Walking Dead every time.
Yeah. All right, Norman, you're gonna be a
Norman.
box this time. Your whole goal is just to not get wet and soggy, and they're gonna love it. You're gonna be this telepathic box. It's gonna be fantastic.
You're gonna be holding a baby all the time. He's like, "How much you paying me?" All right.
Oh, so good.
Well, any last thoughts before we cap off this comeback?
Bulbasaur is the best Pokemon.
Good. That's all I needed to hear. All right, I'm cutting this off before Kaylan gets mad any further. All right, it's in the can. It
Siri will
took
show
him.
that I'm right.
Oh yeah, there's gonna be if there's comments on this, it's all I'm going down. Nobody likes
Aw,
Bulbasaur.
That's cute, Adam. He thinks we get comments.
Look. I'm gonna just. I'm not even gonna actually properly title this first episode. It's just gonna be a title that says "Bulbasaur is the best starter." Change my mind, and that'll be it.
The views skyrocket. That's
But
clickbait.
that is the end of this. And again, we apologize for how long it took, but hey, we're pretty happy with how this first one turned out, and this is what it's going to start being like weekly again, assuming nothing else happens. Look, making sure there's nothing potentially about to fall on me here, just in case. But
Don't
I
look
think
up.
we're okay. I think we're good to start doing this weekly again.
Good until you jinxed it.
Well, yeah, of
Yeah.
course. Jinxing is my specialty. Let's be honest.
See,
I
Jinx,
opposite
horrible Pokemon.
Jinx Deathloop. It worked. So I'm trying to do the same with Hogwarts. That's what I'm trying to do here.
You're gonna be bad and no one loves you. It'll prove you wrong.
And it's a Game of the Year nominee. See? The plan works. But with that being said, on behalf of Chris and Kaylan, we are so happy to be back. It's been some time getting our podcast chops back on here. As always, if you're watching on YouTube, like and subscribe if you haven't already. If you're listening to us in any streaming service you get us, whether that's Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, many of the others that I'm forgetting because it's late. But you can check everything you need to know about us, whether it's our socials, link to our email, link to our Discord, link to all of the places that you can find this podcast. You can visit us in the bottom left corner, or bottom right corner, see, directionally challenged here, bottom right corner of the screen if you're watching on YouTube. Otherwise, for those listening on audio, it's linktree/PixelPlayPodcast. That is linktr.ee/PixelPlayPodcast. And by the way, Squirtle is the best starter, so, let's just keep going. But for that, goodbye, everybody, and we'll see you next week when the show is actually a thing again.